Baseplan Presents video features how to improve communication in the service department with advanced notes, focusing on the following areas. What are advanced notes? Using advanced notes in service jobs and service calls. Viewing advanced notes in other areas of Baseplan. Copying advanced notes between service calls and service jobs.
Okay, so I'm currently logged into Baseplan Enterprise, and we're going to be looking at how we can use some of the new notes functionality within the service job and the service call modules. Now, this functionality is going to be rolled out to other areas in the system, but I think this would be a really good introduction on how it works, the purpose of it, and how it can actually link in with other areas in the system. So I've just got some data I've already set up down here. So I've got a service job that I've created. And so this service job is just for a piece of equipment that has broken down. I've got a job description of machine is having issues starting. It's for constellation earth moving, and it's been allocated to a particular tech. Now, often what happens is when we have these work orders or these service jobs that are in place, we need to record notes against it. So just tracking what's happening. Obviously, we've got the timesheets from the technician, but maybe just some information about the job, whether it be for internal purposes, for external purposes. Maybe it's about us following somebody up on a task. And often in the scenario, you would either record that in an open text field or in a spreadsheet, or maybe on a piece of paper, or maybe on a whiteboard. So the way that we've built this new module is by having different types of notes and being able to record them in the service module. So if we go up to service, onto notes, if I click on this, you'll see here that this is a different screen to what maybe you're used to in other areas. Other areas of the system will just be very much an open text field where you can record a whole bunch of information. This one, you actually get your different note types. So we've got a few different types here that are the system is configured already with them. So we might be wanting to do an internal follow-up. We might be wanting to do maybe a note that relates to the site. There might be an external note. We might need to be printing on the job card information potentially. Really depends on what the scenario is here. But in this instance, I'm just going to be clicking on follow-up, and I click on add. And I can record the details of this particular note and assign who needs to do the follow-up and when the due date is as well. So I can say follow up ETA on completion date. The created by would obviously default to me automatically. The follow-up by, so I can say M. Simonson, and it needs to happen in 2 days' time, potentially. Now, if I hit save, you can see here that that creates a note record, and I could go on and add another note if I wanted to. I can also flag whether this note follow-up, for example, has actually been completed. And then we can start doing some things like reporting in the system on who needs to do what and have they completed that task. As I said, we can obviously record other types of notes, just general notes, which we'll talk about in a second. When I do record these notes, you can also see over here whether it's going to print on the stationery and whether it's going to show in the technician allocation screen, which is really important in a new feature where we can record a note in one section of the system and it'll actually display in another area of the system as well. So I'm just going to close this off. And so I've recorded a note on job 3595 and it's allocated to technician LE. And so if I went to the technician allocation screen now, and I was looking for, what is it, Ellie, for Larry, we can see here, so 3595, which is this top one. So this new functionality means that when I record a note in the system, if someone is working out of this technician allocation screen, which is obviously where at the top we've got unallocated work, work in progress down the bottom, and our technicians on the right. If I scroll across here, we should be able to see the latest communication note that's recorded on that service job. So follow up ETA on completion date. So we can actually have those notes populating for other people to see in the system as this, as you can see, as an example. We might be displaying these notes in a dashboard as well, and maybe you might have a report built off of it, but that's really going to evolve over time as it spreads out into other areas in the system like rental. Now, I can record those notes on a service job, but I can also record those notes on a service call as well. And so if I went down to my service call screen that I've got set up here, so I've got a call that's come in. So remember, a service call is when maybe a breakdown has occurred for something that's out on rent. You need to record the details of what's happened, and then that's the process of you then planning to allocate it over to another person to complete maybe the service work, or maybe find out what's going on with the piece of equipment. Or maybe you've sold something to a customer and they're requesting some type of service, same sort of deal, recording all the information, the triage of the service call, and then converting that to a service job. So I've just got an excavator for Valaris construction. I've just put the details in here as machine is having issues with the track tension, and just recorded the reason codes. Now, what I can do is I can then go in and add a note here as well. So let's say, for example, I wanted to do an internal note this time. So I can add that in, and maybe we spoke to the customer on the phone and it sounds like maybe the issue might have been actually caused by the customer based upon the environment. So we could say double check for damage. And if I hit save, that'll record a note in here against the service call. Now, where this becomes really powerful is being able to then obviously display this information on the technician allocation screen, but then copy that information over to a service job when it gets converted as well. So if we just go back here and we went back to our technician allocation screen, we can see here the top one is that service call we had in there. So machine is having an issue with the track tension. And if we just did a refresh and it's over here. So double check for damage. So that's the last note detail entered. But if we were to convert this, so let's just say we wanted to allocate this to a tech. Let's do this quickly here. Let's choose Baseplan. And I could either allocate this from the technician allocation screen, or I can go up here and say post, which is going to convert it to a service job, which means that someone needs to actually start recording timesheets and parts. What this is going to do is it's going to look at all the notes that have been recorded, like I just showed you, and it's also going to look at the detail on the service call as well and copy that across. So I go, yes. So the service call has been posted to a service job. And did you want to view the service job? Yes. Now, if we go into this particular service job that it's creating right now for us, we'll be actually able to see the notes that relate to this, and it'll be all derived from that service call. So machine is having issues with the track tension. So it's created a service job number. All the information is being copied across automatically. So then someone can start recording their timesheets and parts. But if we went up to this note section, you can see here, it's copied the top one, double check for damage that I entered, and it's automatically pulled across the details for the call as well. So it just means that there's all this information that we're actually keeping together. And so making sure that the communication line is open between the different departments that are working together. So I think this would be a really good introduction for people to start figuring out how this notes functionality is actually going to fall into the current processes and where it can actually eliminate some of the maybe the lost communication between the teams. All right, well, that wraps up this session. If you have any questions or ideas on future topics, please leave a comment in the section below, and we'll see everyone in next week's session.